It's Firefly time again. I wanted to give you a little update. After I did the last video that I posted, a few weeks later I did install a push-pull here for the bridge. And it works. But what I want to do now is put a push-pull in for each one of the volumes. This one has the wrong type pot on it, and I have to change it out as well. And what I'm going to do this time is do something called the Lindy Fralin partial split, which what it does is basically you take the center taps from each one of these coils, and you usually bring them to ground by pulling it up and putting ground on it. Well, what I found from Lindy Fralin is instead of doing that, you take the center taps, which come out here. Instead of putting them directly to ground, you install a resistor between there and ground, and that leaves a DC potential across the coil, and it allows part of the second coil to remain active, hence the name partial split. So in his recommendations, it's a 7K resistor. I've got a 7.5. I also have a 6.2 available, and how much of the second coil stays active depends on the value of this resistor. The higher the value, the more the second coil stays active, and then it gets to a point where it just gets muddied out apparently. And the lower the value towards ground, well then the less and less it operates, and it gets more like a normal coil split. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and we're going to start right now. Kaboom. I might have to take out the tone pots as well, so I'm just going to take the knobs off of them as well because of the wiring harness. And I think I want to change the jack out this time. I've had a little bit of trouble with it since the last time I pulled it out. So I think I'm going to put in, I've got a switchcraft jack for that. I'll have to enlarge the hole a little bit. So I don't know how much of this I'm going to have to take out. And I'm going to have to get my ropes again to be able to pull stuff back in, maybe. Well, especially for the jack. You've got to do it for the jack. Oh, that's too deep. Let's get that by hand. Yes. Now, just fair warning, I will probably be speeding up some of the work that I'm doing, just so that it's not total boredom. Oh, the other way. Because some of it is self-evident. That one is really tight. There we go. That stayed in. Always something. There's always something. Well, that's going down against the harness. That's below it. Okay. That worked out pretty good. What's going to happen with the other one? The other one is not as close to the edge. I can't remember how I tie wrapped all that stuff together. And I pushed it inside. Oh yes, there's a big washer on the back of that. This one only had a small washer. I think I put back in the same washer that it came with. Let me try. These skinny nose. If I can just get it to come this way a little bit. I also don't want to scrape up the surface or the edge of my F-hole, because I like things aesthetically pleasing, even on my inexpensive guitars. Oh, I think there's a wire in the way. Let me take a little look. Oh no, that's on the pot. See if I can wiggle it this way. And there it is. Maybe I can just grab the neck. Now, no, it's being held in by something over there, probably the jack. Okay, the jack is a slightly larger nut. And it fell. So hopefully that's the only wire holding that one in. The tool, let's see if it's that one. No. Darn. I was really hoping it was going to just come a little bit easier now that that's out. But I think it's going to be that one too. Darn. Yeah, it's probably, yeah, the tone and the volume might be close together in wiring for the capacitor link that goes between them. Okay, third one. Is it the charm? Is it the charm? Oh, looks like. Oops, things are falling inside. Those are the washers that are on the back of those little pots. Yes, it is the link between the two. And the treble bleed circuit, which I forgot I put in there, is just in the way. Okay. All right, let me see if I can pull the jack wire out at the same time. Oh yeah, I'll have to get that washer out later. That jack fell. Way over there. And that's the wire. Right there. If only I could get it up. There it is. Ah, success. Well, that wasn't so bad. Actually, that's the easy part. It's putting it all back in's the harder part. I have to use my cord trick again like I did last time. And guys, since I had a cataract operation, I now have to wear these reading glasses to be able to see stuff. I've got two. This 1.5, so I can see really up close if I'm working like that, and then a little bit further away like this, I have to use the 1.0s. That's now the bane of my perfect vision that they gave me after cataract surgery for distance. Okay, so see, the pot I put in here was an A500, an audio taper. I didn't pay attention to that when I did the rewire last time. Should be a B, and there's a lot of wires going to this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera on off and pause, or whatever the case may be. So we'll cut back in here when I've got a little bit further on with the provisioning of these pots and get them all ready for installation. I forgot to say why you do partial splits, and it's basically for outputs that are very low output, and that way you can retain some of the second coil, which avoids a massive volume drop when you split them. So the neck that I have here is a 7.5K Alnico 2 pickup, and the bridge is an 8.35 Alnico 4 pickup. So when you start splitting those in half, you're looking at 3 point something here, and you're looking at 4 point something there, and that would be the whole of the coil that's remaining. So that's why you do it. It's so you can get some of the extra one staying on, doesn't drop as much, and you get the volume feeling a little bit fuller, and it will probably be a little bit less tinny as well. And that's the whole point. And, you know, it's an experimental guitar, and I'm going to keep experimenting with it until I get it the best that I can like it. And I think this is going to do it, because I really hate taking this in and out. So we're back, and this is how the switch was provisioned, with the initial ground on the pot and the resistor just up the side. And what will happen is then the center tap will go here, and when you pull it up, it'll bring the resistor into circuit to ground. So I have completed the bridge one, and now this is a little bit different. It's taking out the old pot that came with the guitar and putting in the new one. Now, unsoldering is a little bit of a problem sometimes, and I always recommend a solder sucker pump. Now, some of you know this and some of you don't, and this is for the some of you that don't, because I've been told that some folks wanted to see a little bit more of my work, and so I'm going to show a little bit more of the work by doing this one on that side. So I'm going to do the jack at the end after I finish doing this. This is the new jack. It's going to go up in there. I have to remember how I had to tie that last time in order to be able to pull it through there. I think I wrap it around that up through the center and then pull it in, and then pull the slip knot off. Getting these pots back in here is not bad because they're right close to the edge, so I can kind of maneuver it with my fingers. Now, since I'm not going to try to keep this pot, I am just going to make it easier on myself and just cut the tabs off of these things right there. And now that makes it easier to get that off later. The center tap on this has never been used. It's still in the original insulation that came from Tone Emporium. Now, as you've seen, I use this little vice grip here to hold the pots for me when I'm trying to do some work on them. So it just kind of holds it in place for me. It's handy. I don't want to get stuff on the guitar, but there's a lot of solder here, and it's going to be a little bit hard to reflow it. Oh, by the way, I've tested the new mod on the bridge over at the amp, and it worked. So all we got to do is get this one going. And I don't care about the pot, but I do care about the wires not getting too overheated. Come on, come off of there. Oh, that is possibly hooked on there. All these grounds are clumped together. This is the wire going to the switch, I think. Yep. The pot's maybe a little hot. Ouch. A lot hot. Reflow that. I'll pull it. Ah, man, it's hard to get off of there. It doesn't want to reflow nice. Come on. Boom. Finally. Finally. So using the pliers like this also acts as kind of a heat sink to not let a lot of the heat go down into the wire. Some will, but can't be helped. But at least it does its job. So that thing is garbage. Now, getting these things apart. Now, what do I need to do with that? That's all going to go to lug 3. Up here with the other ground on the switch, because they're so close by. Ground, signal, output, which is this one, which also has a ground. And they're kind of short. So I think I'm going to lengthen both of those black ones. Oh, my left leg is getting numb sitting on the edge of this stool. Alright, repositioned. So this clump, I'm just going to reflow because I think it's just a clump of solder. Like that. Should be able to reuse that. So now this wire strippers, I've taken the the stopper off mine, and sometimes I cut wire with it and sometimes I don't. So I just want to get through the black jacket, pull a little bit like that, and because I can't get it over the top, I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and very gently just cut that jacket down the side. And then I'm going to see if I can get it off with the pliers to give me a little bit more working room with this hot end ground. And it worked. Alright, that one's outside of the guitar, so it's not that hard. Let me just put that over there. Little trouble lead. This one's more inside the guitar and there's not as much room on it. I tried to untangle these wires, and I have to a certain degree. So this will be just a tiny bit more tedious to do it here, but can be done. There, it's loose. And of course the important point is, don't cut your finger instead of the insulation. Always should have a sharp X-Acto knife, blade available, not too much pressure, because you don't want to cut the white insulation jacket which is hiding under there. Let me see if I can pinch this side again and be successful to get that part off. Not as good as the last one. I was too cautious. Alright, so keep my fingers away. And let's see if it'll come now. Yes, indeed. Alrighty. So that's a little bit more working room on that one. Just twist up the ground. That's not stringy. Boom. Neck. I marked it last time I was in there, neck. And when you've got a lot of wires like this, and if you're not accustomed to doing this, first time you install these things and you mark them, so next time you go in, you pull out gray wires if they're both gray. One will say N, the other one will say B. Try to keep the entanglement as low as possible. And I need to now get this off over there. Just going to pull the top of that and tear it off. Because all I need is exposed is those little bare wires, which is the center tap for the pickup. Like that. Let me see which way is the least entanglement. I think it's like that. It's the shortest wire that I have to worry about. Okay. Just want to fix the end of this. Try to get it through the lug hole. I think that end has already been soldered. Let's just take a look. Yeah, they've got a touch on it, and that's okay. Hot. Alright. First thing I did on the other one was put in the center tap. So I have to open this up again and try to hold that head. You don't want to damage that, so it's just there to hold this. Oh, turn it that way so I can have some maneuverability with it. You don't want to break that, so very gently just hold it in place so that you can do what you want to do. So I have to get that in there, and it goes in. Beautiful. Now what I need that to do is to stay there while I solder it. Always make sure your soldering iron is clean on the tip. Now you guys can't see my soldering iron, but it's over there. And I've got a wet pad to clean it on before every soldering. You don't want to put a massive amount of solder, just enough to flow it, and make sure that it's a good joint. Perfect. And we're only using one side of the switch in this mod. I've already soldered the ground on the bottom here. I've also soldered the lug up there. And that just helps me a little bit when I want to get around to this here. Alright. Here's where this wire is going to become problematic for me. I guess it's going to have to come under there. I just want to stick that rag down inside a bit. Like that. Because that's going to have to come up here. So, just taking a little breather for a second. On the drawing, the bridge is completely done. This was already there. I made a mistake in the schematic. It should go here, so I fixed it. That was in. The white and black is now in, and that went to ground. This also went to the switch. The jack is yet to be done, so now I just put this part on, and we have the signals to do and the ground. So once you do this a couple of times, you know, there's not a lot of different bits to this thing. They're basically all the same. There's signal and ground. The grounds are always the braids, and the signals are always the one that's not braided. When you've got braided shielded wire, sometimes you've got pushback wire, sometimes you've just got plastic wire going everywhere this way and that way, and you have to run a separate wire for grounds all over the place between the pots. This way you don't have to with the braids. The braids basically bring the grounds everywhere, and so they're ground for the signal and they're ground, common ground for all the pots together. So now the red one was the next one to go in. This is the hot for the pickup. Just a tad on there, just to get it hot and let it flow quickly. And make sure it looks good. Yes. Now, I'm missing, there it is. I knew there was a wire missing. So these two whites have to go there, while this other ground has to go to ground. And it's in an awkward position for it to be able to do that, although this wire is quite long. I guess I'm going to have to move everything up this way a little bit. Nah, that's sitting on there too much. And that will have to come up under here. Of course, it's turned the wrong way for me to use it going to the pot. This one and this one can go together. Makes it a little bit easier if you do it this way. And I'm just going to touch it to make the solder hold them together. Just touched, just touched. All right, here's yellow. So now, because this wire is a bit shorter than I had on the other one, it's going to be a little bit more problematic for me, as I mentioned. So it has to go to ground, and here's where all my grounds are, and that's where the signal is. So I'm going to push this red one down a little bit like that. This one is up, and this one is up. And I wanted to show you guys the second one because it was going to be a little bit more difficult. And just because something's difficult doesn't mean it's not doable. Alright. Now if you have some little working tools, and these are available these days, you know, in many places. In the States, Harbor Freight is the big place. Oh, damn. Sometimes that happens. And it doesn't do what you want it to do. Now, when you're making solder connections, I know a lot of people will just kind of like put it on and then dab solder with no prior mechanical connection. That is not the correct way to do soldering. You can do it that way. It will work that way. But easily moving stuff around, it can break a solder joint. And this way it won't break off unless the wire breaks. This is the proper way it is done in industry. Now I've got to get these grounds to go over there with all these other grounds. On the other one I had enough of a hole where I could shove it in. And on this one I don't seem to. Got to pump that. I think I'm just going to take a little solder off of there. Make it a little bit easier for me. Geez, I wish that wire to the switch was a little bit longer now. Alright, let me get a little bit more altitude on that ground lug. And let's see if I can get that in there. I think the hole's a bit too small for the end, still. These shielded wires swell up when the solder reflows between them, making it thicker than you want it to be, just to go into a tiny little space. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now bend over, like that. Come on. Okay. And now I'm going to try to bend this end over with my finger to go over the top of the pot. And be just snugged in there. Like that. So they're all making connection. Clean the iron. Always put a little bit of solder on the iron. Helps make it flow. And then what you do is you put the solder on the joint, heat it up, and you put your other solder stick, string, whatever we call this, I can't remember now, between the iron and the wires, so the solder melts into the wires and onto the lug. And that worked out very nicely. Good. Oh, that one's left. Since I didn't leave that too long, it doesn't need a really good cleaning over there, it just needs a touch. These very small wires, you've got to have a soldering iron that is at least 40 watts no more than 60 to be able to flow solder and heat up joints like that without damaging the wires, because the heat will travel down the wire. Okay. They're all connected where they should be. Oh, is my red one not soldered properly? I thought I had soldered that well. Oh, darn. I forgot a ground. That would have been a shocker after getting it all in there and thinking, what happened? Why doesn't it work? Because that's the one that goes to the switch. I really, really, really am upset that that worked like that with myself. Really, really, really. So I'm going to put that under. I'm going to try to keep that white one away from the heat. Where's my grip? That will hold my pot. Just where I want it there. I'm going to do something I just told you not to do because I forgot. To wrap it around with the other one. Because I can't do that now, I'm making the exception of just tacking it on top with the others. Like that. And it will be good. The signals from pickup are so small, that's why they don't need very large gauge wire in these guitars, and that should now work. So the next thing is making the hole big enough for this jack. Oh, it's already big enough. Look at that. It's big enough for a switchcraft. Sun on the beach. That is really great. I don't have to do any work on scarfing that out. Woohoo! Look at that. It's perfect just for that one. That's a switchcraft. Has a much better. This is called a shepherd staff on the switchcraft. Fender has them made by Switchcraft for them. And on the metric ones, they usually just come with that single. And what happens is that this arm over time weakens. Whereas on this one, the tension is put here mostly on the inside and not the outside. Tiny bit there, but more here. I mean, these will work for a long time, but this one gave me a little bit of trouble, and as I said, I'm going to take it out. So, this is the original soldering that came from the factory. It's good solder. It's a little bit heavy, but it's a good solder. Let's see what it'll do when I try to flow it. I just don't want to cut the wires off just yet if I don't have to, and because this jack length is long and I don't want to have to put a whole new wire on it. That means I have to take everything out again because this goes to the switch, and that's something I don't want to do. I've got a lot. Good, good, good. All right, the other side. Easy life. Sometimes I have a plastic clip, but they sometimes have too much pressure. It's just one of those plastic clamper things. They do squeeze quite hard on things. Here it goes. How does it look? I think it's gonna need another touch. Yep, I did. Sometimes I forget. And by the time I flow it and I hit the button, nothing happens. Okay, I think that's just going to come off of there. Yeah, because they had it the way I said don't do it. That side also. Oh, come on. Yeah, they did it the way I said don't do it. It's just tapped on the side. And sometimes just getting that to come off is harder than reflowing the whole blob. Okay. See ya. Now these are a little bit further apart, are they not? Not too bad. I marked one side with the marker that it's negative, so I know where to put that. I checked it with the meter. So that one goes on the braid, and the other one goes there. But I want to put it inside a bit, so I'm just going to flow this down here on the wire, tiny bit. Phew. Like I said, it gets hot fast. I have a 60 watt, and it's not a regulated iron. It's just an Unger 60 watt I've had for decades and decades and decades. If you have a soldering station from Weller or some other company that has a variable control on it, you need at least 40 watts to do a reasonably good job quickly and make it flow nicely, and up to 60 when if you're really good with it, and you have a sense of timing because of experience, you can do a reasonably good job. But do not go with the gun type, anything 100 watts and stuff. No, it'll just ruin your day. So I'm just going to give myself a tiny bit more on the red jacket. Same. So I'm going to do this from the outside because the jack will come up the middle. And just give it a little snug. On the other side. Not enough. You need enough to go around the lug with a mechanical connection, like that. Now, I just need to put a touch on there to seal them in. So a little bit of solder on the tip, on the lug, on the lug. So that's that. Now, I'm going to have to go find my cord because I'll have to run a wire through here and pull a cord up, and that has to go on underneath, and the cord has to come up through here to be able to pull that in there before I reinstall these two while it's out of the way. See, that's right there in the way. Okay, I'm going to give you a pause. I go find my cord. I really should have prepared that in advance, but I did not. Okay, I've got my cord. I've tied it on to the shepherd staff. Put the slip knot up front. Make it a little bit longer if I can here. That's what I'm supposed to pull on. I need it tight. I don't want it to fall off, because I need to be able to get that out afterwards. And I pull it in. Now, this is a piece of wire that I found. I couldn't find the original hook that I had made for the last time I did it in there, and so I'm just going to use this one. And just put a loop in there, and then we have to put another slip knot on the other end of this thing. Make it bigger, Mike. You can work with it. And hook it on. From in there. So I can pull that there. So, let me see if I can remember how that goes. I wonder if that'll do. Oh, that's too big to go through the hole. I have to make that loop a little bit smaller. Narrower. There we go. I just have to have the end open a bit. And see if I can get that in there. Come over this way. Alright. It's there. It used to be right there. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. So far so good. There goes the washer. The jack's a little bit bigger than the metric one. Overall physical size. The washer is off. See if we can get it back on. There we go. And can we get it up through the hole? Okay, something's stopping it. Coming up there. I wonder if the washer is just a little bit crooked. I don't see it being crooked. Is it possible that the washer takes up too much space to be able to get that nut on there? And I mean, it's not a whole lot. I mean, I need about 4 threads to be able to get that up there. I wonder what's going on with that. I wonder what's going on with that. You know, I think it is. The body could be a little bit too thick to try to get that washer underneath there. That's not good. So here we go again. Get the washer off, got to take the rope off. Now it came with that washer. I've got some other ones which are maybe thinner. Yeah, that's thinner. Will it fit over there? Body top on this guitar is it's a good 1/8 of an inch thick. I didn't have any problems with the construction, the wood of this guitar. Everything else had to go, but not that. Okay, that's thinner. You see, in a practical world, this would just work perfectly the first time. But in the reality of the world, things rarely ever work perfect the first time, and a lot of people are disappointed by that. And they don't have the patience to find the scenario of what's the problem, find a way around it, and get the job done. Come on, get on there. Alright, let's try it again with the thinner washer and see if I can get a few threads on there to get that nut on the top. And again, the washer came off, and we'll just use the adjuster screwdriver to try to get it over the top. Try to pull it up and in. Can I get a couple of threads on that now? Is there enough? Is there enough? Is there enough? There's not enough. Well, it's going to be no washer on the bottom, because I can't keep doing this all day. At least I know this can go in and out a number of times. Okay, that's going to be enough to get the nut on the top. Really would like to have a flat washer up top. Up to the nut. Well, the nut's still in the bag. So the Switchcraft came with a star washer and just a plain flat washer for the top, but there really should be I can't get my finger all the way down there to hold that from spinning. I really need a star washer on the back. I really, really, really do. Because otherwise it gets to a point where it's just going to spin on me. The jack will always be loose. But it's going to scratch the top of the guitar. I'm surprised these jacks are not a little bit longer. I guess maybe they made them for a metal plate and not to come through there. And you know, I did toy with the idea of cutting a hole on the bottom and putting the jack down here. It's quite thick, and I really like the jack to come out here. I do not like it on the front of the guitar. It's my personal preference that I do not like it there. Does it seem to be spinning it? And do I have a socket big enough for that one? I might have to go get one. I do not. It's a 1/2 inch. I'm lucky enough to have that downstairs with me. And as I'm turning, it's turning the wire, it's turning everything, because I don't have a way to hold it, and that little washer that I put on there is not doing its job. Darn, eh? Well, that's going to be as best as I can do it for now. Alright, now here's the trick of taking the slip knot out and leaving that in there. All the way out, and that's how it stays in, like that. Okay, enough fooling around with that for now. We still have to get 2 of these in. So first the tone, and that has to get, I had one of these big flat washers under it. I'm going to put this star washer under it, because that was in the monoprice. And this is the same pots that were in the monoprice, so I know that that's probably going to work okay. And I got to be careful not to break anything. So now we have to tie the rope. Oh, yeah. Speaking of slip knots, we have to make another one, just to be cautious, because I don't want the washer to sort of fall off when I try to put the pod in there and it goes upside down. because it will. No doubt about it. I'm sure many people at this point will be bored to tears and will have stopped watching if I keep this part of the video in. Okay, so again, now it's even thinner in that hole. So I have to make that even narrower. Go in there. Go through that hole. Ooh, there you go. And I like this. This is ground wire out of a 14 black and white and ground wire, 14 gauge. It's nice and pliable copper. It's easy to work with. Unlike the coat hangers that has been recommended in some videos to use a coat hanger. They're too rigid and more likely to do some damage to the sides of your guitar. And up comes the pot through the hole. Now this I can actually get my finger on down there. And this has, come on, come around. Come through there. And this has the ability to have a pot washer, like this little one, on it. And its nut. That won't scratch. And that one is a 10mm. That's a 12. Where's the 10? There it is. And because it has the star washer underneath, it doesn't try to turn at all. And you don't want to over tighten, just needs to be nice and snug. You over tighten the shaft, you can break it right out of the pot. So I just hand tighten it with this, not with the handle. It does a good enough job. Alright, so don't need that anymore, don't need that anymore. Got one more to put in here. So this is the new one. Came with 2 nuts, which is nice. A lot of the times these things only come with 1, and sometimes you need to make an adjustment depending on what you're putting it through, and you need another nut on the bottom to adjust the length that comes through the top. So this will be on the top. We're going to put this star washer on the bottom because it will work. And now we got to get all that stuff inside, and this thing has to go down inside this hole like that, and we got to get it on the string. Coming out's a lot easier. Coming out is a lot easier. Push pull is nice because you can kind of get it around that piece of the shaft and it won't fall off. More serious to get in there. Get it hooked up and pull it through. I sped all this up in the last video when I had everything out as a total harness, and I took for granted that other people have done this on YouTube, and there's plenty of other things, but it turns out some people watching my video said they wanted to see a little bit more work. Well, I'm going to give a little bit more. I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to give at this point. But now I'm having trouble with this pot, trying to get it up in the hole, because it's much bigger to handle. It's got a lot of stuff on it. It's got to be down. It's a little bit more rigid because of all the wires. Alright, I just close the pot a bit. Here she comes. Here she comes. Come on. There. Alright, I'm just going to be able to get that on there. I don't even know if I'll be able to get that little flat washer on it. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on with the flat washer. It's barely going to be there. But it barely has to be there. 10 millimeter. And I do need a little bit of cranking power with the handle for this thing. This time, because this time I can actually hold the pot on the bottom and not let it turn, so that even though there's no star washer, and that should do it. That should do it. I've got all little bits and pieces all over my table. That should do it. Now there's some people who also don't like to see the wires in there, but you know, without taking everything out and wrapping them and putting them all around in a loop like this, when you got enough wire to do it, you just basically can't stop that from happening. I mean, I don't mind, because that doesn't stop it from playing at all. Okay, up, 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 and up is like that, is it? And then 0. Okay, yep, like that. Always press down in the center. Get them flat on. And 10 would be there. Let's find the tooth. There you go. About the same place, 10, 10. One more over. I'm going to match that one, instead of taking that one off again. There's a little trick to get these off as well. You can take a string, and if you get it under like that, then use it as a wedge on both sides to be able to get it off. I'm going to go test that, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, at the desk, and I've got the amp set on a Fender 65 twin reverb. Treble bass, middle are all at 5, gain is at 4. Volume there is full output. Master on the amp is at 3. And I just wanted to show that it works the way Lindy Fralin says it does. And the new pots work nice on the volume. The tone still works. Beautifully. So, no split. Split. And the volume doesn't drop a lot. It gets a little thinner, but not as thin as it did when I had the full split in it, which was unpleasing to the ear. So I like this. I kind of thought that's what would happen when I first thought I was going to do this. And then when I saw the pickups were so low that I decided not to put the splits in. Then I actually tried one, and it was right. It wasn't that great. So now that I found this Lindy Fralin thing, I'm much more happy with it. And the bridge has the treble bleed in it, and the neck doesn't because I forgot to put it on. Okay, back up to the neck. Neck sounds good even without the split. Pull it. See how the bridge is a little bit sharper. Roll in the neck, makes it a little bit warmer. That's the kind of blending I like, more than actually using tone, and for me that works. So, by special request from Leo, I will put a copy of the schematic that I used, circuit, in the description that you could click on and get it if you want. And I'm very happy with the results. See you in the next one.